evening. So our first guest is Mr. Gunajit Brahma, the co-founder of Farm Easy Technologies Private Limited. So the company aims to facilitate easy access to affordable financial services like farm loan, crop insurance, etc. to small and marginal farmers and agribusinesses in India. And this all by determining the credit worthiness of the farmers. So the company is working on achieving the true and complete sustainable development goals. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Moving on, so our next guest for the evening is Mr. Karthik Manikonda, founder and CEO of The Mind and Company. So The Mind and Company is a service-driven company that provides therapy across the world. It aims to bring awareness about mental health and help in making mental health an absolute priority. So it helps to strive changes in the lives of people with the vast and still growing team of psychiatrists and psychologists. The aim is to support, guide, and provide help to every individual needing therapy or counseling. So, very warm welcome to you as well, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Saloni. That's a very good intro. Thank you.
So, without further ado, let's deep dive into the conversation. So, Mr. Karthik and Mr. Gunajit, my first question would be to both of you. So how did this idea crop up? Because the Indian market, is still new to such segments, be it agrofintech or mental health. So where did you derive the inspiration to venture into the respective segments? So can we start with you, Mr. Karthik, and then we can move on to Mr. Gunajit?
Yeah, sure, Saloni. So I'll just give you a background. So I finished my CA and I was working in the corporate. So this was not, I had no clue about mental health and how it works. And the corporate life in India, it's very hectic. You work day in, day out, weekends, you hardly get weekends off. And when COVID started, like close to COVID, I got a call from one of my friends saying that, like, he was my best friend from school. So few of my friends were staying in Bangalore, and I got a call saying my friend actually attempted to suicide and he's admitted in the hospital. So he was in ICU. So then we all rushed to Bangalore, and then thankfully he was out of the hospital. And then he had his problems and all of that. And then, like, after that, he just took up therapy with a therapist in Bangalore, and he's absolutely fine now, totally fine. And that's when I realized that, okay, there is something called therapy. And when you have a problem in life, I mean, everyone's got problems, right? Like, when you have a problem, you share with your friends and you share with your family, but they're going to be judgmental about you. So there's a separate field called therapist where you go share to them about your problems and they help you come out of it. It's not like, let's say you have a breakup and you go one day and you talk to a therapist and it's fine. It's going to take few weeks and few months for it to be fine. And when I started researching in India about a year and a half back, it was not that great in India. Like therapy, when we say therapy, people say you actually have a problem, you have a mental problem or something. When I researched about it in US, UK, right, it was very common. Like everybody had a therapist, every celebrity had a therapist, and it was very widely accepted in the US and the Western countries. But in India, it was not that affordable and even accessible. Like in UK, you'll have to pay 20,000 rupees for one session or 15,000 rupees for one session. And India, like you have still have to pay 2-3K. So I thought I'll just make therapy accessible. Started the portal, got in a few therapists, and we provide therapy from starting from 400, 500 to about 3-4,000 per session. We give a lot of free sessions. So I thought this was more soul filling, like more than the money, it was more soul filling that we can help a lot of people. So that's how the idea came about, and that's how we started. And today we're growing well, and like glad. Like I just hope in India in the next few years we accept mental health much more than how it is today.
It's so sad to hear about your friend, Mr. Karthik.
Yeah, he's
But
absolutely fine now. So he's totally chill with therapy and help him out. So
yes, one can might find motivation in really strange places.
yeah.
So moving on to you, Mr. Gunajit, if you could please answer the question. Uh, Mr. Gunajit, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. Started in around 2019. I also have another startup in the agribusiness sector, wherein we are promoting organic product from the northeastern states for the domestic as well as international market. So while interacting with few of our progressive farmers who have been supplying, sourcing us, we realized that the farmers, at least primarily in the northeastern state, the farmers of this region, even if they are progressive, they have Krishi Ratna award, which is the large, highest award that the farmer can get. They don't have access to finance, as in the banks are not very keen in providing the financial services like loans and others. And even if they are willing to provide, it takes around 6 months, running around pillar and post just to get a small loan of say for example 50,000 or 1 lakh. So that's where I had a discussion with one of my co-founder, Alok Ika. He is also my batchmate and a friend from IIM Indore. So and he was into the financial sector, financial risk management, and all. So I asked him, I mean, what can we do for the farmers? What was happening is that since the banks are not providing any financial services to the farmer are depending on the money lenders in the village, who are charging them 10% per month interest rate. So that means around 120% per annum, wherein the government of India's policy under Krishi credit card says that farmer can get loan as low as 4% per annum. So you can see the difference between 4% and 120%. It's quite high, but still the farmers are taking loan from the 120% guy because it's easy to they're giving in cash in hand, wherein with the banks they have to run around 6 months, and then it can get rejected even after the 6 months. So that's where we came into the play. And then while discussing with my co-founder Alok, we realized that there is a potential of developing a credit assessment report or credit scorecard, which is similar to a CIBIL scorecard, but for farmers, because farmers typically don't have any CIBIL scorecard because they are not a monthly income people. They have income during the after the harvest only. So that's why we pitch in with my knowledge about agriculture, agribusiness, and Alok with his knowledge about financial services. We came together, we put our thinking hat, and then realized that we can develop a credit scoring model for the farmer using few parameters which can be used by the banks to assess the credit score or credit health of the farmer and the net worth of the farmer. So that's how the idea got sprout in the month in 2019, and we launched our company officially on the 1st of January 2020. So it's been 2 years now, and we have been able to facilitate financial services to over I think around 60-70 farmers are already been given loan, a very small ticket size, of which 80% of the farmers are first time borrowers. That means they have never have any credit scoring earlier done. They have never taken any loan, I mean official loan from banks and all. So and yeah, that's how we started off our venture. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you both, Mr. Gunajit and Mr. Karthik, for your answers. So I gather there's always some motivation to find for anyone who is looking, right? So now coming to the next question, I would like to know more about the services that your respective businesses are offering. So to start with you, Mr. Gunajit, can you elaborate what are the parameters taken into consideration for evaluating the credit worthiness of farmers, and what is the process after the risk has been determined?
I'll give you the overall general overview. I cannot get into much details because we have applied for patent for both the credit scoring as well as the algorithm. But what we do is that we try to take the complete holistic data of the farmer. That includes your land record, land holdings, how much area are they cultivating in a particular land, what are the kind of irrigation facility do they have, what are the crop they are doing each season. I mean, there are 3 seasons in for agriculture in India. So what are the seasons, what are the crop they're cultivating in the season, do they have any livestock, do they have any farm mechanization technologies, tractors, power tillers and others, are they using farm inputs like fertilizer, pesticides, etc. And also the plantation crop, because none of the government department typically considers plantation as a income generating avenue specifically for the loan segment. So those are the parameters that we take, considering the farmer and what are the crop that the farmer is growing. If it's a field crop, then only those information are being taken. Suppose it's a cattle farmer, then only the information of the cattle is being considered to assess the credit worthiness. So, and then the basic KYC, we did the demographic data of the farmer, which is again validated through Aadhaar linked APIs, so that the information is accurate. And then we use farmer collectives leaders who are helping the data to be collected on behalf of the farmer. We realize that the farmer is not going to fill in the data in English, or maybe he or she might have difficulty in filling the information even in other multilingual languages, where we have, I mean, now English, Hindi, and Assamese. But then we have realized few farmers are having difficulty, typing the Hindi language, or say, for example, Assamese language. So that's where the group leader of those farmers come pitch in, and then they help in collecting the data, including GPS coordinates of the farms, so that later on we can use that information also to predict weather pattern and all those information. So yeah, those information get collected, and then the algorithm kicks in. The analysis of the information takes hardly 2 to 3 minutes. The credit report is real time, so it can be um, once the data has been filled up, the farmer can get the report card instantaneously, or the banks who are willing to pay loan the farmer, they get the report card instantaneously. And then the report card will contain the credit scoring model, and then how much the scores are for the farmer, whether it's a B category, A category for, group or not. And then if all the documentation are in place, within 15 to 20 minutes or at most 1 hour, the farmer can get the loan. So it is in a single, with the click of a mouse button, click of a mobile touch screen, they can get the loan within 1 hour if all the paperwork are in place. So then the farmer gets the money in their account with the whatever the account detail that they have given, which is linked to Aadhaar, and then they can use the money for their activity, which we make sure that the activity is being undertaken, because we take proof of usage of the capital, and the repayment period happens after 1 month of 1.5 month of the loan disbursal. Repayment typically is done online using UPI. Both the loan as repayment is on UPI, so the farmer does not have to go to a bank. Incidentally, we are working in a northeastern state, but our bank that we have partner, or the NBFC that has partner with us, is based out of Chandigarh. So anyway, the farmer is not going to go to Chandigarh to they are doing it online. So the repayment also happens in a day or two within the time frame, or maybe within 5 minutes of the time frame, and then and then we get the report of the repayment, and then if some repayment happening because of multiple reasons, for example, the farmer does not have any cash, so the farmer collective can pitch in and facilitate buyback of the product produce of the farmer, and then give money to the farmer to repay the loan on time. So we have completed a one cycle, 3 months cycle with a small loan, and then 100% of repayment was there. So that is where the loan part comes in. And for insurance, we are in talk with few insurance agencies, wherein insurance will be provided to cattle as well as livestock, and then those terms and conditions are based on their parameters. So yeah, this is how typically we work. Yeah.
So that was really some very interesting solution, Mr. Gunaji, because money and finance has always been a problem for farmers, right? And in many cases, that has ended in depression or even suicide. So this brings me to you, Mr. Karthik. So can you describe more about the services that are being offered? And along with that, can you also outline the legal or clinical aspects associated with the service?
Yeah, definitely, sir. Before that, Gunjan sir, what you're doing is a great noble work, sir. Giving loan to farmers, appreciate it, very good one, because a lot of fintech startups come in, they give loans for other purposes, but nobody focuses on this area. So, I'm really glad about it. Sir. Coming back to the question, Saloni. So, what we do is in this area, right, in mental health, the problem is when someone comes for therapy, the first thing that comes to your mind is, okay, you go to a doctor, they'll give you tablets, and it's like antidepressant or anti-anxiety. It's not that. Let's say if 100 people come in, medication is prescribed only for about 10% of them. So how it works is there are two types of counselors. One is called psychologist, and the other one is called psychiatrist. So psychologist is not a doctor. They are more trained in solving your problems by just talking to them. So they you tell your problems to them, and they don't give you solutions. Let's say you go there and tell you lost your job. They're not going to give you a solution. So they're just going to help you understand you better, what work would work for you. They will ask you a lot of questions about your life, and you answer them, you get more clarity about it. If somebody has some problems, there's something called a clinical psychologist who diagnose issues. When only in those cases where somebody is diagnosed with certain mental health issues like bipolar disorder, etc., then they are referred to a psychiatrist who then prescribe medicines. So here, when you think about mental health, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is, okay, you go take tablets and you'll be fine. No. So it's 90%, it just gets done by talking to them and you get a clarity. How do you talk to your best friend, you get some clarity, right? So a lot, especially COVID, a lot of them were home and they were just restricted to their house. So they didn't know where to go and they were fully on social media. So this helps. So this is how the process works. And when someone comes in, what we do is we first understand what they need, like which area they need, like focus on like work-life balance or career, like to choose the right career. Then we understand what language they need the sessions, and we provide like therapy in all languages, Indian languages, English and all. And then we understand like what's their budget, if they can pay 500,000 per session, and we share a few profiles to them, and they select a profile. Some of them do come in saying we can't afford much, like we only pay 150 rupees per session. And even for them, we do give out sessions, we give out a lot of free sessions, and they take up the therapy. It takes about a few months, and then they see progress. Being very honest, therapy is not going to help everybody. Like if you just come, it's like, to put it in very simple terms, you just don't go to a therapist and find a solution. It's like finding the right ice cream flavor. Like you'll have to try 4 5 flavors to get the right, find the right flavor, right? So to talk and open up to a person, right? It's not like you get connect with the right first person you talk. So you will actually have to try out 4 5 different therapists over a period of few months, and you will get the match. It takes time to find the right therapist, and we are working towards like getting that connect right, like helping you find the right therapist much sooner, like make the match based on your needs. So that's how we operate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karthik, for making the picture very clear for us. And it's very encouraging to see, that we are finally taking positive strides towards mental health. So now that we have discussed this, I would like to understand your companies in terms of the target segment. So starting with you, Mr. Gunajit, the company has chosen small and marginal farmers as their target population. So what criteria is the selection based on, and how has the classification been reached upon? If you could please tell us that.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, we have been working with the smallholder farmers in the organic sector. So then when we did some little bit of market research in the year 2019, just before launching our company and the product, we realized that 85% of the farmers in India are smallholder farmers, and only 15% of them are large farmers. And the large farmers are already banked. I mean, most of the companies in the agri-tech, or there are few in agri-fintech also, most of them are targeting this 15% of the market share because they have credit history, they have the money to utilize agri-tech solutions and all. But nobody is looking at the 85%. And of that 85%, 60% are underbanked. There are few who are getting some schemes and other facilitation from the government, both state or central government, but then 60% of them are not getting anything. They just have a basic bank account, which also recently got recently been made through the government initiatives. So that's why we realized that this 85% could be the larger, anyway it's a larger market share. And also if you see the market segmentation, the fintech market, the agri fintech market itself is around $250 billion market, whereas the agri tech market is just $25 billion. But then we realized that the potential is really huge. I mean, there could be 250 unicorns in this segment only, in the agri fintech segment only. And if you see the complete lending, insurance, and other aspect in this whole agriculture scenario, it will come to over $600 billion, which is what Heminder sir from CIE has earlier written in an article. So $600 billion market, but very few players are there in this segment, and more so very few in the segment where the rural farmers or the smallholder farmers are being considered. So then we realized that would be a very good opportunity for us, because most of the competitions, as I mentioned, are looking at the 15%. So the competition over there are very high, right? Because banks are already there banking them. Then if there are fintech companies coming and then trying to take away, make them their customer, they have to give a better service than the banks. Then only they can give them the they'll come. But in the small and marginal farmer sector, since they are not at all underbanked and they are being served only by the money lenders in the local area, we realize there's a bigger potential. And as well as with small ticket size loans, let's say for example 5,000 loan, 10,000 loan, 15,000 or 20,000 loan, their whole the livelihood could be turned around. So that's why we realized that this is the market potential that we can look at and start working on it, and then later on maybe move to the larger farmer base. So that was one of the major there's a few of the major reasons why we choose smallholder farmers.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, sir. Now, Mr. Karthik, could you describe your target segment target population, and are you also planning to, enter the rural or semi-urban market in India, or would you rather explore the international markets?
Yeah. So Saloni, so therapy is something anybody can take it. Anybody, so like, I mean, anybody in the world can take therapy. But if you look at the trend, right, of the clients we have, 90% of them, I mean, you won't be able to believe it, 90% of them are aged between 18 to 30. So the rest, so I mean, the next question you might get in a doubt is, so does it mean that people above 30, 40 don't have problems? So I mean, don't have things to share. It's not that way. It's just that the people in 20s, the current generation, are more open towards therapy. So they're okay to go towards therapy. But people in late 30s, 40s, 50s, we do have clients over there, but they're not very open. They don't even know what's therapy. If I go tell my mother, like, do you have a problem? Go talk to a therapist. She'll be like, what's this? I've never heard of this. So the main thing is bringing awareness. So once we bring the awareness, I mean, anybody's going to be the client. So today, like, I mean, you just have to bring awareness about therapy and then tell them what it is so that anybody can be a client. So coming to your question to rural and tier 2, tier 3 cities, of course, the awareness there is much lower compared to cities. So if you see, most clients do come from metros, but I think as time progresses, when the awareness do spreads, people from other cities will come in. And of course, abroad there is good awareness in developed countries. So people are already taking up therapy over there. Over there, there's no this like how we have in India, 90% is people in 20s. There it's everybody, like it's a proper share of proportion. So that's all the target audience.
Thank you both of you for your answers. I think selecting the right audience or the target population is as important as having the right idea. So moving ahead, I would like to now throw some light on the challenges that your respective startups have been facing. So we agree that the industries you are operating in, which is agri, fintech, and mental health, is quite different. But what I feel is common in them both is the consumer trust. So in matters of finance and health both, it is important that people put their trust in us. So what has been your strategy of getting consumers on board? So maybe we can start with you, Mr. Karthik.
Yeah. So your question is like, what are the challenges we're facing in this sector,
Yes,
correct?
and yes, and the second part to that is how are you gaining consumer trust to
Okay.
keep moving ahead?
Yeah. So the first thing in therapy is you're going to go and share your deeper secrets, like which you might have not even told anybody. Something like there are certain things only you know about yourself. So when you share that outside with somebody else, the first thing they get scared is, will this stay confidential? So before COVID, what happened was therapy used to happen in offline centers, like in rooms which are fully closed. So that was pretty fine. But now it's happening online through Google Meet or Zoom. So everybody's scared, like, what if it gets recorded? What if it gets leaked out? So that is one thing we have to explain to them, saying it's nothing's recorded and everything is confidential. That is one thing. And the second thing is affordability. So most people come in and see, when you go to a doctor, when you go to a hospital, right? Let's say whatever the issue being, we don't go and bargain in a hospital, correct? You don't go bargain saying, if they're going to charge you 5,000 rupees for a blood test, I don't think we go ask them for a discount in a reputed lab or a reputed hospital. If they're going to charge 2 lakhs for a heart surgery, oh, we don't sit and bargain over there. We just pay because we want the results. But when we come to this mental health, people are still not aware that they think paying 2,000 rupees for 1 hour session or 1,000 for 1 hour session is a lot. They just think they can pay 100, 200. But the thing is, these therapists who are doing this work have undergone 6 years of education. So once they're done with their school, they do 4 years of bachelor's, 2 years of master's, and some of them even do an additional 2 years of PhD. So they, I mean, have 6 to 8 years of education, and then they come into the field. So like they need to be paid, like like I said, like in the Western countries, they pay 5,000, 10, 15,000 per hour. But in India, still people are not ready to pay for it because they don't see the value out of it. So it will take time. It is going to take a few years for people to actually accept and start valuing this. So I would say these would be the top two, I mean, one of the challenges over here. And of course, awareness. Like not a lot of people know about what therapy is. So awareness is another big challenge. Which if you focus on awareness, people will automatically start taking up therapy. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Karthik, for the answer. Mr. Gunajit, can we now have your views?
Sure. Working with the smallholder farmers has a lot of challenges. If I start, I mean, it will be more than 1 hour, 2 hours just discussing the challenges. but I'll just pinpoint few of the major ones. Earlier, it was difficult to convince the farmer to give their data to us through the mobile application. So that's where we put in the farmer collect leaders in the middle, wherein they are collecting the data on behalf of the farmer. So the trust on the data is not there. Trust of the data is there. Sorry, wherein they are trusting their own people. The group leaders are they're part of their organization, right? So they're trusting on them and then providing the data to be collected so that the credit modeling can be done. Another bigger challenge, so that got the earlier challenge got covered up or solved. So the bigger challenge right now is convincing banks and financial institutes to partner with us to provide the credit line required for the farmers to take the loan, right? So we have been operational for almost 2 years now, wherein the first 1 year was in the digital, technology upgradation. So now when they are aware that there is a company who are providing credit worthiness and easy financing, the farmers are coming in, bunches. We have access to about 10,000 farmers, of which almost everybody is, saying that we want cheaper loan options. But then from the banking segment, it is becoming a little bit of a challenge because the banking and the core banking system is still closed network. They don't allow new technology company to get their APIs or the software to get linked to the system so that exchange of data and information can take place. So that's technology upgradation is a real challenge that we are facing in terms of our client, the banks who pay for the services. The farmers are actually free. The technology service for the farmers are free. We don't charge anything to them. So banking is a challenge. And then second, not of a major challenge, but a little bit of a minor one, is that suppose we are setting up a solution. Our solution is state specific. So for example, we are working in Assam. So the Assam solution will not directly work in, say, for example, a state like Maharashtra, wherein there are farmers who are more advanced in their technology, in their knowledge. So for Maharashtra, the credit modeling will change a little bit. So the credit scorecard also changes. So with each state that we go on, the technology will, the solution differs a little bit with them. So we prefer so that the banking partner that we tied up is preferably from the region, so that it becomes easier for them to understand what the kind of solution that we are providing. Yeah, technology upgradation is a challenge, and the banking partners change in mindset is another challenge that we are facing right now.
Okay. That was really, these obstacles, I think, are the stepping stones which are allowing you to move forward.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Karthik, I have another follow-up
Yeah.
question for you in this. There's a stigma and a taboo related to mental health in India.
Totally.
So, how do you plan on, maybe surpassing that and emerging as a leader in this game?
Yeah, so for that, we all follow. Most of us we watch movies, we're on social media, and we follow influencers, right? And we end up doing what they do, correct? So the best way is to reach out to these celebrities and influencers, and if they take up therapy and if they express about how therapy works for them, and then all their followers will be okay taking therapy. So what we do is we reach out to a lot of these influencers on social media and we tell them about therapy, and a lot of them have tried therapy and it did help them, and they started sharing their experience on their accounts, and that has actually helped in spreading awareness, and people are like accepting it. Like, at least their followers, they started taking therapy.
Okay, thank you, sir. And on similar lines, Mr. Gunajit, I would like to ask you, so have you identified any direct or indirect competitor in this field? And if yes, how do you plan on being the best amongst them?
Okay. Yeah, we do have a few competitors based out of Western India as well as in Southern India. There are two different companies that are working, and then there are a few working in the Northern India also. Northeast, there is none as of such. So initially, we are focusing on Northeast because Northeast is itself what we realize. It's a very big market, $3.6 billion market only in the agriculture credit. So we will be able to survive for the next 3-4 years just in this area. Then going forward to compete with the competitors, as I mentioned earlier, that most of the competition is looking at the larger markets, the larger farmers who has income over 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs, and they are not looking at smallholder farmers. We do have few insights saying that there are one of the competitors trying to do the smallholder farmers, but they are not able to fit in their business model as yet, because the challenge for working with the smallholder farmers is entirely different for the large farmers. The data are also very accurate. You have to make sure that the data, whatever we feed in, is accurate in terms of then only the credit modeling can happen. So that is those are where we try to take advantages, that since we have or at least us, we have experience of working with smallholder farmers for almost 10 years now. Although the company is new, but the segmentation has been worked with almost 10 years now. So we understand the pain point of the smallholder farmers, I think, a little bit better than a few of the other competitors. That's how we are trying to solve them, and then new products are being added to them for the smallholder farmers, like connecting with the insurance, providing market linkages so that they remain with us, and directly onboarding the farmer collectives in the larger way. So one farmer collective will have around 3,000 farmers. So if the collective comes in, the whole bunch of farmers will come in our stride. So that's how we are trying to overcome the competition with the technology as well as with the ground presence in the rural segment.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. My next question, would seem very obvious, because both of your companies, your ventures started in and around COVID, right? So I would like to ask, what was the impact on your ventures? And can we start with you, Mr. Karthik?
That's pretty simple. So, before COVID, not just in therapy field, everything was offline. Meetings, let's say your school, everything was offline. We never thought of like running entire year 11th and 12th online, right? So now it's happening. Like an online education has taken over everywhere, like so many tech startups. So similarly, therapy actually never took place online. So it was only in-person sessions. But after COVID, just like how other industries moved online, a lot of therapists started doing video consultations, and they found it effective. So why? I mean, of course, offline therapy is more, much better than online therapy. But for a lot of people who are traveling and like they have challenges in like going to the place, they prefer online. Why offline is better? Of course, like when a client comes in, therapist observes their body language, how they're talking, and all of that. You can't do all of it online, but still to an extent, it does help. So COVID has definitely helped in like pushing it online. And regarding competition, like of course, every business is going to have competition, and we do have a lot of big players in this field itself. Google has a mental health startup which started 4 years back, and I mean, just a month back has invested in a Singapore-based mental health startup. So it is picking up, and I mean, like a lot of you will see a lot of companies coming up in this space. There have been a lot already, and it's going to keep growing only, and that's good because that's going to spread more awareness.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Karthik. So, Mr. Najib, what has been your views on COVID?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we started in January 2020, right, as I mentioned, and then after 3 months, COVID struck. So initially, what was our challenge was that almost all our team members are remote. My co-founder sits in Pune. Our one engineer sits in Ranchi. Another one was sitting in Jorhat, which is a small town in Northeast. So we had to coordinate the whole development of technology online, and it took almost a year to completely develop what we wanted to develop. Meanwhile, while we want to onboard a lot of banks on with us, then calling them was not working, because it has to be a physical meeting. Then only be able to pitch our ideas and all. Digital, all tried digital technology to interact with them, pitch our ideas and all. It was not very effective. That's why it took some time to get them onboarded. But the good thing was that with the farmers, it was rather surprisingly easier to onboard. I mean, once the farmer collective were onboarded, most of our app-based training we provided through Google Meet to the farmer group, and then the farmer group leaders were able to use the mobile application directly by learning how that through Google Meet itself. With that side, it was okay. But again, yeah, the whole project got delayed by 1.5 years because of COVID protocols and others. So,
Okay, thank you, sir, for outlining, these challenges for us. And now I see we are close to exhausting the time we had. So I would pose a last question. Could you both please tell us where do you see this industry going, and what per se is the scope of future innovations in your own businesses? So can we start with you, Mr. Gunajit?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the market is anyway growing in the agriculture sector. A lot of focus has been given by the government to, uplift the economy of the farm, because once the economy of the farmer increases, the economy of rural India will increase. And with India's target of $5 trillion economy, the rural market itself will contribute 1.5 dollar, and for that to happen, the rural community needs to get uplifted. And digital banking is something that will be useful in achieving those targets, rather than physical banking, where banks say the money spent on bank to run a operate a business or a branch in the rural sector are quite high, and the income generation is not that much. So digital technology or digital banking will be a forefront, helping the rural economy grow. So we in that segment will be able to contribute more towards the development. And in the company segment, if you ask us, I mean, what are our future plan? So we are raising some funds as of now, mainly to develop the technology further, get into other states first, and then international market as such. I mean, we are part of United Nations Capital Development Fund also. So we have access for Southeast Asia as well as Africa, which will be subsequent. We will be starting that. And with insurance, we're trying to do things mainly in Kels, where when we want to use more of a AI-based technology to provide the insurance as well as look after the claim that is being made, so that the claims are authentic in that term. So there are a few technological planning to do in the coming years. And in the long term, I think, yeah, I mean, we want to be one of the largest pioneer in this agri fintech segment, because right now most of the agri fintech segment is taken care of by the bank government, and the government and for the banks to do it, but then private segment are very limited. Private sector interventions are there, so we want to pioneer that, and maybe long run, hopefully become a unicorn.
For that. Now, Mr. Karthik, if you could just outline, your future plans for us.
Totally. So if you see like a lot of schools and corporates, right, in mental health. To give you a small example, let's take a school kid who's not been to school for 10 days, and he suddenly comes to school the next day. The teachers will just say, call your parents, and they'll ask why you're on leave for 10 days. We don't investigate it further. So, I mean, maybe there could have been a death in the student's family, or he might have been harassed in school. He might have had some problem, and like we don't address it well. So a lot of schools have started getting in-house counselors to like address all these kind of issues for students. I can see a lot of schools in Chennai actually opening up towards it. And now corporates, especially after COVID, most corporates are tying up with mental health companies to provide, like we provide like well-being camps to employees, right? Like say you go for a trip or you go for some lunch or something, team lunch. So they're also giving free mental health sessions. So let's say IC gives free mental health sessions to its employees, and they tie up with other companies. So a lot of corporates are open about it, and they are tying up for their employees. So that is good growth, and that's why we're looking at to go also, like to start reaching out to schools, colleges, and corporates to tell them what mental health and how it can help your students or your employees, and if they're like mentally fine, it's going to contribute towards your productivity. So there are people doing it, and I mean, I'm sure it's going to grow. So the next 4 5 years, you're going to see like significant growth in this. A lot of apps coming. You can see Google, which has introduced a therapy which is AI based. So you don't talk to a person, you just talk to a bot which responds to your like responsible, because you might not be comfortable up to a person, right? So it's bot based. So a lot of things are coming up over here, like meditation and all of that. So it is going to grow, and I will be. I mean, not about my startup, but I actually want a change for mental health. So wherever it comes from, and of course, I mean, the startup to grow bigger and like to be one of the best mental health startup providers, like mental health service providers in India.
Definitely, Karthik. And now that we are close to exhausting the time, I would really like to thank you both for such an enriching discussion. So It is very interesting to learn about all the amazing ideas and the disruptions your respective companies have brought. And it was even more encouraging to see that the fundamental idea remains to help people uplift them and contribute to the society. I think you would agree with me on that. So now we open the floor for questions from the audience. You can directly unmute yourself or post your questions in the chat box and I'll take them up.
Good evening, Mr. Karthik and Gundeep sir. So I just wanted to ask you both something. Um, it's wonderful to have both of you here today with us. I am a part of my startup Yatra, and I would like to thank both of you for being present today during the month of mental health awareness. And yes, Gunadeep ji, your work is also contributing towards mental health awareness, because if we talk about how farmers have suffered and how they were not given enough support system, though there was a lot of support that was created, but it was not reaching in the right direction towards them. So I think indirectly you are also providing that support system, giving them confidence, building their confidence in terms of building their business. So I just wanted to ask you, have both of you thought of promoting your business from the perspective of sustainable development goals? Because both your businesses fall into in that category. And this year's budget has very clearly mentioned that there will be funds released to startups which are into sustainable development goals. So there's a question that I have for both of you. Have you all tried to explore that? And one more point for Gunjit ji. Sir, have you thought of registering yourself with World Bank, as you're a startup which is a fintech company, and World Bank is providing a lot of support to developing world and emerging world country startups into this arena? So this is a tidbit that I wanted to ask you all. Please help me out with this.
Okay, should I should I answer first? So yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your encouraging words. Regarding your last question, back in the order. So regarding your last question about World Bank, we do, as I mentioned in my conversation, we do are also part of United Nations Capital Development Fund. We were one of the 15 companies got selected for this agri tech challenge, and ours was in the fintech category, wherein we have been given access for the African as well as the Southeast Asian market. World Bank, I have to see. I mean, which program, if you are specifying, I mean, which program you are specifically talking about. We have to check whether there are possibilities to tie up with World Bank or not. In the global arena, we are already in touch with European agri banks as in India, where we want to partner with them to at least if not directly, indirectly provide some kind of small and marginal farmers, primarily women farmers, because with that most of the women farmers, although they are contributing, I mean 50% of the farmers are actually women farmer, but then they don't have mention or the name in the groups, in the farmer collective or in others. So we're encouraging them to come forward, register themselves as an official farmer, and then get a benefit that has been provided to them through the either the government mechanism or the bank or through our platform. Regarding the SDGs, yeah, there are few. I think reducing inequality would be one where we can cater to reducing financial inequality rather. We and then I think let me check that.
SDG 5, gender, because you mentioned
Yeah,
about
gender.
women, 50% of your clients being women. I
Correct.
think 5 for both these.
5 and
So I
10.
think you should explore it further.
Yes, we will try to do that. I mean, I think, yeah, we were one of the semi-finalists for Financial Times SDG program, which was specifically focusing on any of the 3 or 4 SDG goals, of which we qualified for one. That's why we were in the semi-finals at least. So yeah, that is part of it. We'll just have to figure out how to, utilize SDG as one of the main pillars in our business model. Second, also we are trying to explore something with carbon credits, because we are promoting a lot of organic farmers. The FPO, FPCs that are part of us are mostly organic farmers, and we are hoping that with carbon credits issued under their name or the FPC's name, they may even get benefit in the loan interest rate. Somehow we have to figure out how the financial instrument will work, but then their loan amount will get further reduced if they are are getting alternate source of revenue through carbon credits.
Sir, for both these, you can connect with Mystartupyatra, because we have specialists here. So we can help you out with both carbon credits as well as your SDG goal alignments. We welcome you for the same. Mr. Karthik, I would just like you to give your inputs too.
Yeah, sure, Smita. So before I go with your questions, Smita, I think there's one in the chat. Can I take it up, sir? Is that fine?
Yes, please.
Sure,
There's a
Mr.
question.
Karthik.
Yeah, there's
Yes,
one
this
from
is
True
fine.
Cars. He's asking how long are therapy sessions? They're usually for about 45 to 60 minutes, plus or minus 10 minutes, because you can't have a prefixed time. It's based on how the flow goes in. And common problems is, I mean, it's going to be wide range, but I would say top 3, 4 will be relationship issues, or like family issues, or work-life balance, career issues, or like general depression and all of that. And of course, you can get a free session. You can just, you can just connect with startup on WhatsApp or Instagram. It's called the Mind and Company. You will find it. You can DM us and you can just tell your name. I can see True Cars here, but I don't know your name. But of course, you can just tell this. We will give you a free session. And coming back to Smita, your question, till now we've been a bootstrap startup. So it's been about the last 6 months has been, we're seeing good growth. So it's only the bootstrap we've invested. I will be going for funding pretty soon, because to scale up, you will be needing funding. So for now, I'm just bringing in good growth. So in the last 6 months, we've seen 2x growth. So I'm just looking for another 2x, like 4x, make it 4x in the next 3 months. And post that, I'm looking to go for funding, because if we do reach out to investors at the moment, they're not very inclined towards investing in mental health in India, but now it is changing. So I was thinking, like, rather than going to them with an idea, it's better to go with them with a proven product. So we do have a website which is not Wix or not Shopify. It's fully coded, fully custom built website. So we will be going to funding pretty soon in the next coming few months.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Karthik and Mr. Gunajit, for your answers, and Dr. Smita here for your question. So, do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes, Karan.
Hello, Gunajit sir. The question is for you. One is, you have determined the financial risk associated with particular farmer. What is done to improve it?
Yeah, the main thing is that improve it as in we are providing the financial services as in loan. They don't have any credit score or credit history in their past, so we are building that credit history. So today, when we start with, suppose, say for example, 5,000 rupees loan, and then they are paying that loan in 3 months, and complete repayment has been done without any NPA, then what happens is that that information will be there with all the banking community, the BFSS sector. So next, when he or she goes for a bigger loan, say for example 30,000, the credit history has already been built. So now the farmer will have a easier alternative to get credit. And later on, I mean, the objective is to obviously, not only from farm credit, we want to also get into this your general credit. Like suppose the farmer wants to own a say for example motorcycle, or wants to take education loan for their children, so they would be able to get it faster, because they have the credit scoring or credit history been built up over the years. So yeah, so that's what we are helping, I mean, providing services on that aspect. So does that answer your question, Mr. Karan?
I hope it does. Thank you, Karan, for your question. So we'll just wait a few more minutes to see if there are any further questions.
May I ask one more question, Karthik? Have you had customers from tier 2 cities?
Yeah, I would say comparatively, we have the most number of customers, clients from metros, the top metros in next coming Hyderabad, Bangalore. And then abroad, we see a lot of clients, Indians who are located abroad. We see a lot of
Mhm.
clients coming in from there. And tier two, I would say pretty less, but it will keep increasing as we keep going on because the awareness over there is not much.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Gunjit sir, I have one more for you. Uh, so when we talk about Northeast, Northeast is a very, very interesting region with the lookist policy of government since 2014. Uh, how much do you think such startups can, like yours, can uh, benefit through such policies of government? Have they reached the region? Is my question.
Okay. Yeah, the act is policy. I mean, look list was earlier been done, but now it's act is policy, as in we have to act on the looking part and then develop it. So there are a lot of development that has happened primarily in the startup ecosystem in general, because I was also part of the developing the Assam startup policies and all. I was one of key decision policy maker as such. We have seen that over the past 5 years or 7 8 years, almost all the northeastern states have their startup policy been made with the Invest India team, and then a lot of government grants are also in place. If you see all over India, Assam has the highest grant amount up to 50 lakhs, which is equity free grant, of which there are two segments. One is this idea to POC segment, and there is this other scale up segment. Manipur government also has a grant amount up to 30 lakh per start. And then Mizoram, Sikkim, and others. Mizoram, Sikkim, they all have their own startup policies. I think Sikkim has Assam and Sikkim are the two states which has their own AICs, Atal Innovation Centers. I think, yeah, Atal Innovation Centers, and then the rest has their own either central sponsored startup policy, startup incubation centers, or state based incubation centers. So my startup is Farm Easy Technologies. My startup is incubated with Assam startup, which is right now currently managed by IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. So they have provided not only for the grant, but they have also provided this mentoring support, how to do paperwork and other knowledge sharing and others. So that is changing a bit right now. And with the government funding coming in mainly for the development of the sector, more and more entrepreneurs has come. I mean, when I started my journey as an entrepreneur way back in 2012 with my other ventures, so that time, I mean, entrepreneurship was never heard of. It was a very new term. I mean, most of the people over here were looking for government jobs, or private job was also frowned upon. But right now, people are considering startup as a career option, and a lot of youngsters has joined in as a to become entrepreneurs. Most of and few of them has also got investment. Third party investors also are there, and there we have Northeast Venture Fund, which is funding a lot of Northeast based startups. So, and then few of the startup are from based out of Guwahati, have or providing services to American or European clients. So it has gone a long way right now. And obviously proximity to Southeast Asia is another advantage that we have in Northeast, wherein a few of the startups are working with client based out of Southeast Asia to expand their businesses there as well.
That's wonderful, sir. Yes, absolutely. What you said is artist is more important. And through your input, I think we are able to experience a bit of Northeast now with the fact that there is some acting which is happening. But yes, there is a lot to be done more.
Yes.
Let's wish the Lookie's policy brings the entire East back to India.
Hope so. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now that we have come to the end of the session, I would like to thank you, Mr. Gunajit and Mr. Karthik, my Mystartupyatra team. So we have really had a very enriching evening evening. And I would also like to thank all the audience for being so patient and keeping the session so enriching. So are there any ending remarks that you would like to share, Mr. Karthik?
All good. So thank you, Saloni, and thank you, Gunajit. Gunajit, I mean, a lot of inputs I got from the Agri-Tech startup, and Saloni, you've been a great host. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Karthik. And Mr. Gunajit, your ending remarks, please.
Yeah, it was really nice having interacting with you all about the startup journey and all. And I wish all the best for my startup yatra, and hope to see more progress in the startup ecosystem as such, with contribution from Startup Yatra. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your wishes, Mr. Gunajit. And I think we can bid adieu for the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.